Sebring gives them that chance. National Speed Sports News Editor Chris Economaki has the details.
There are three types of cars in the Sebring race. Grand Touring cars or GTs, GT prototype, and sports racing.
Chris Economaki, with whom I was friendly while he was alive, told me, point blank, I said, what was the most interesting and exciting place you'd been to? He'd been to virtually every racetrack, probably in the world during his lifetime. But he said, of all the places, when he answered my question, that was the most astounding, captivating, exhilarating event was Bonneville. I was a gearhead when I was a kid. I didn't care what it was. I'd be interested in how it worked and take it apart and put it back together. And once in a while, I had a few extra parts.
Get out of it at 8,000.
Speed's in my blood, and starting from my big wheel. I had the fastest big wheel in the neighborhood. I had the fastest lawnmower in the neighborhood. What I mean by that is I made it go the fastest with gear-driven wheels so I could cut the grass quicker than anyone.
I took a little bit more on the fabrication side of things. Obviously all the safety stuff, roll cage, seats, harnesses.
Officially, my title is Andy Man, Get It Done.
Ryan and his team put together an amazing car. My dad put together an amazing mission. And my job was to not fuck it up.
Bonneville Speed Week, hundreds upon hundreds of participants show up and try to break a categories record and get into the record books for going the fastest in that class. Well, after hearing from Chris Economaki how amazing it was, I decided that it needs to be moved forward from the back burner to the front burner.
It was kind of like a father-son trip idea. And it was a kind of a crazy idea. We're going to go out to Bonneville, try to break a land speed record. Sure, Dad. Okay, great.
After having scoured the rules, I determined that under 2-liter GT production was a vulnerable class. The record was 159.4 miles an hour, and I felt we could go at least 160. That was my goal. And I don't want to go out and come back each year for the next 5 years until we break a record. I want to go out and be a rookie record breaker. So I contacted a fellow, one of the really smart guys in automotive preparation, Ryan Pila.
We've run World Challenge, we've run ALMS, owned and operated multiple teams. I put the FRC 500 on the pole first time ever in history for Ford Motorsports. I was teammates with Patrick Dempsey at that time. We've raced with Mario Andretti, we've raced with Paul Newman. Harvey got in touch with me because at the time I was top of the list in Spec Miata racing in the country. Harvey called me and he said, I think you're the man to do it.
Where others have tried to do it in the past and set records, if you're looking to break their records, be mindful that they didn't get there easily, and if you're going to break their record, you're going to have to do some homework.
We had to take a motor that comes out of the factory at 105, 110 horsepower at best and turn it into something 3 times that with just manipulating the parts.
You're going to have to be attentive to the details. You're going to have to make sure you're fully prepared.
And the hardest part about it was that, we weren't near a racetrack and we weren't near something, 3 miles long that we could actually do the testing that we needed to do.
You've got to think it through, analyze it, do your math, do your homework, do your preparation.
And a lot of variables, density, altitude, pressure, altitude, dew point, temperature, ambient temperature, all the above played a huge role in building the car here versus what it was going to be like when we got out to Utah.
Like anything, it's not as easy as it looks. It's not as simple as it. It's always more complex. It always costs more money. It always takes more time. It's almost a fundamental axiom when it comes to doing something complex.
Harvey had contracted us, and it was like, we're taking this car and we're going out there and we're breaking a record. I mean, that's like crazy pressure. Usually it's like, all right, we're taking a car out, we're gonna do some testing, see what it does, and we're gonna prep to come back next year.
Research and development.
This was you guys. It was like this is it.
Part of the ruling is that it had to be an under 2-liter motor. So basically what we did was we built a 1.99999 liter motor, brought it to its limits. We built combustion chambers right before flame front actually happens in the combustion chamber. This engine had 14.5-to-1 compression. So it sounded like a NASCAR.
From a road racing side of things, as far as familiarity with the car, we had that. It was a new adventure, and to equate all of that and transfer that vehicle into a land speed record.
We knew what the car, could and can't do, but we didn't know what the actual abilities of the car were going to be at that speed. So that was pretty much the unknown, because obviously we were not able to go over 150 miles an hour in front of our shop.
Next thing I know is one day he says, Andy, we're going to Bonneville.
Pine trees lining the winding road. I've got a name.
Charlie and I hooked up, inspected everything, and got ready for the 3-week road trip. Then we drove to Long Island to pick up the car. Get the car loaded, we turn around, come back off Long Island, head George Washington Bridge, and just head west.
With me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept here. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by.
I remember in the 80s, growing up and being boarding school, I had like a poster of the Blue Flame on my wall, which was a rocket car that went, I think, almost the speed of sound or something like that. And so you saw this like blue bullet on a completely white landscape.
When you arrive there, you're not really sure if you're in the right place. You're not sure where to go. There's no real signs, there's no streets, there's no directional. There's just giant 500 feet wide road with no lanes, cars going on both sides of you, coming in different directions in this enormous, vast, undisciplined space.
When we first arrived, my impression was, my God, I'm sat in a huge 18-wheeler truck and I can't see where the pit area is coming off the road. And there's a little man there and he says, just drive down there. You drove 6 miles into the salt to get to the pits. Nowhere else in the world do you do that. Pit lane was like 5 miles long.
As you get closer to the salt flats, you start to see some exotic vehicles.
People are strange when you're a stranger Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange.
It's a cult out there. It's a living and breathing, different human being of just car crazy.
No one remembers your name when you're strange.
It is beautiful. Those cars were works of art. People were just cruising around in their rat rods, taking a look at all the crazy machinery from people from all over the world.
I mean, you see everything from a moped trying to break a world record to, you know, a car going 400 miles an hour.
Well, the weird, crazy stuff that we saw was things like a 30-foot long needle of a car with 5 engines all mated together in a straight line so that it would feed one axle to drive, like a bank of wheels all clustered in the back, and it looked like a flying needle.
Those vehicles are just innovative, beautiful, sexy, noisy, astonishing devices created by really devoted enthusiasts who have spent, you know, untold hours building them.
The atmosphere was an atmosphere I've never experienced at any racetrack anywhere. It's like one big, huge family. And everybody's prepared and willing to help everybody else. And people will sit and talk to you and tell you their stories, or if they can give you advice, they'll give you advice. And we needed a lot of advice.
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in. I woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in. I found my mind in a brown paper bag, but then I tripped on a cloud and fell 8 miles high. I tore my mind on a jagged sky. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
We're used to, you roll into tech, a few minutes, boom, you're done. No, not here. We were a day in tech. A whole day.
For this one, yeah. For this one, yeah. I'm the guy you got to worry about.
Their mantra was, we don't care how fast you go. They were very, very careful. They only had one focus. They didn't care how fast you went. They just want you to go home at the end.
I got up so tight I couldn't unwind. I saw so much, I broke my mind. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
Anything to do with safety was looked at, far more so than the engineering. But they were also interested in the size of the engine. Was it correct? They did measure the engine bore and stroke to make sure that you weren't cheating.
So we get out there and you're reading through books and setting the car up and all the safety standards and you know, everything, some stuff gets lost in translation. So now you're out there under the scrutiny of all the tech people and things start to pop up.
Every time you turn around and a different fellow would come across and start pointing at something.
There's no shield between the fan belts and the oil canister inside the engine. And there's nothing in between that belt.
And anytime there was one, you know, Ryan was there with his team, and we were all ready to kind of problem solve and figure it out. And anytime they had any sort of consideration or concern, Ryan was there to kind of just snuff that fire.
That belt is, even if it came off, it would not affect anything on the engine, safety-wise, fuel-wise, or oil-wise, because we have a separate oil pump that drives its own belt. So,
and you know, we were the new kids on the block too. So, you know, one hand wants to say that they were really on us, and other hands were okay. These, you know, they gave us a little bit of a break.
because we've never made a record run before, we probably got a lot more attention than a lot of the other cars out there.
Let me show you. This is laminated glass. 2 pieces of glass, lamination, put together, glued together. And this is non-laminated. And some of this, all of it can be tempered.
The problem is not that it's gonna break and be a problem for you. The problem is if you have tempered glass, it's not laminated, it shatters into about 1 million pieces, and then they're all over the track. Compared to the windshield, which is tempered and laminated, and it essentially breaks off into one big piece.
So there was a panic moment there, because once you get somebody picking something out, you start to worry, oh boy, is this going to snowball, get bigger?
There was a moment there where we really thought we've come all this way and our car may not actually make it. You know, if the car had a spec that just wasn't going to fly, we had to realize we may have to go home.
I'm not sure whether the rules changed by the time we got out there or not, or whether it had to do with the speed or the class that we were in. So we skinned the cat when we got out there.
Not to be a wise guy or anything, but you're just basically telling me that we just need a car tint on this, or film. So if it's 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever, the clearest tint, obviously for the most vision, is better for us, better for everyone.
Yeah.
But I actually could get a roll of thick packing tape and put that on here.
Packing tape works.
Okay.
Some sort of something to keep it in one piece if it were to break.
The tape for what they wrap boxes in the
Yeah,
tape.
so we'll
you can put that on there all the way over. It's ugly, but it'll work.
Yeah, so that's not a problem. Done.
The pressure was crazy. So hurdle 1, we get it through tech. So because the next phase is all the drivers needed to be checked out and licensed to be able to make the run.
This was actually a really daunting challenge for my dad. He was really concerned because this car completely encloses you in a way that you're not going to fall out or get hurt no matter what, but to get out was a real challenge.
For Harvey to break, a world record, an 80-year-old man getting in and out of a very tight cockpit in a Miata. And we spent hours with him getting in and out of the car because they had criteria. We made sure he ate his Wheaties that morning and did his stretching because, for him to get his Hans device off, unbuckle the belts, his water down, get the door open, pull the steering wheel off, get out of the car, get on his feet, roll out.
Just kind of touch what you would do. You like touching the ignition, pushing the fuel, okay, get behind the brakes, okay, and now you want to get out of the car.
Now you deal with Luke getting in and out of the car, and I think Luke is like, 6'4" or something. He's a big guy. And, that small cockpit of the Miata, again, was, very difficult to get in and out of.
It was a fun challenge to figure out how to squirm out of there. I wrestled for 10 years, so I'd figure out how to wiggle my body out of there, and I wasn't too worried about it. And it didn't have to be pretty, but you just had to get out under 30 seconds.
Now we start putting the car through the process. We have an engine that's tweaked to the max. How many runs can that thing take? What's going to happen when a car starts to get 150, 160, 170? How's it going to handle?
One of the challenges was being able to read the salt and understanding what's going on with the salt. And we started to learn that from all the other people that were there.
With the salt, obviously the coefficient of drag is very different and you're going to get a lot more resistance. It didn't hold that much temperature, the salt, like an asphalt road. The best way I can explain it is like slushy snow at different points of the day, depending where the sun was.
When I was actually standing on the salt flat for the first time with like the sun is blaring down on this white surface and it's just exploding with light, white light, so it's like floating. It's strange because it looks like a big frozen ocean.
It's very difficult to describe. It's like being on the surface of the moon, this giant, vast expanse of white salt surrounded by legions, almost an army of black peaks of mountains around it. And as far as you can see in all directions, it's salt.
It was as if, you know, a group of astronauts got their little rocket together and here we are, we landed on some planet and now let's see what can happen. The salt actually has very little traction. So we experimented using push vehicles and things like that to help launch the vehicle into the track. However, the salt's very abrasive. So if you were to get into a spin out or a slide or something like that, it chews right through the tires. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that needed to fall into place for us to do what we needed to do.
You know, besides building the car, besides getting the car out there, the margin for error through the whole process was the most amazing part about it. You know, there was a lot of moving parts in the way that after the car was built, it wasn't just, you know, can the car do it? The next moving part was, can the driver do it?
They don't let you drive right from the get-go to go fast. They first make you go 125, then the next time you say you can go up to 150.
You have 1 mile to get up to speed, 2 timed miles, and then another mile to slow down.
We have to teach Luke and Harvey how to drive this car now. This wasn't the normal car. This was a 9,000 RPM engine. You had to educate them on when to shift, how to shift.
Well, I've got your shift light right in your face, bam.
Where to shift, where the shift points were.
I have that on it at 8,800.
Watch your engine temperature, watch your oil pressure.
I'm gonna put an 8,600 pill in it first for you to start.
We had an engine that was a moving grenade.
And honestly, it's more difficult than it appears because you got to get your shifts right.
You need to shift this car between 7,500 RPMs and 9,000 RPMs. That's where the motor's making all of this power.
You got to take advantage of all the power the engine has.
You had to get it into the sweet spot. You had to get it into its power curve to make the power to make the results that you were looking for.
You got to stay within those markers, and then you got to shut it down without shutting it down too fast.
So there was a huge learning curve of how to drive the car as well, and to be uncomfortable in a small cockpit, claustrophobia, this, that, the other thing. Oh my God, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? With all of the margin for error, the handicaps, and the variables here was very mind-taxing, to say the least.
expression, you know. At a certain speed, you have no friends. You know, that car and you are just a solitary package that you have to rely upon that vehicle being properly prepped, and you have to treat it right. You can't do anything fast. It's all got to be very, very slow and measured, and you have to pay attention. You know, you can't have any brain fade. You know, once you're off and running, you know, you go radio silent then because you're kind of too busy watching the gauges, making the shifts right, making sure you're staying in the middle. You're kind of busy. Not as busy as you are on a road course, but it's a different kind of busy. It's just a great white expanse, but it does have a black pole every 150 feet, I guess it is. You stay in between them. You can go slightly left or slightly right. They don't really care. But the black poles start to move past you fast. Not the same as driving on a road course. It's more of a surrealistic experience. It's the only way to describe it. You feel very, it's a spacey kind of a sense.
The first major speed run that Harvey did was one of the most entertaining. He pushes off into the track, and you know, there
into
he goes,
the horizon,
and he disappears. And the chase vehicle heads up along the side of the track. Oh, where'd Harvey go? and he just took it beyond.
He just kept on
beyond
going.
The track.
He kept on going,
and then finally pulled off. And where'd Harvey go? Where'd Harvey go? Where'd Harvey go? And they finally caught up with him. And he was already out of the car like Neil Armstrong. He just landed on the, you know.
Yeah, he was looking for Neil Armstrong.
He was elated, but we thought we'd lost him.
You short shifted at 7,000. It was like nothing.
Cruise.
Okay.
I'm telling you, if you put this engine to the test, I mean, you'll easily. I really wanted to do this, and I'd like my son to get the record.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And this is a device that can do it and blow it away.
Okay.
Blow it away.
How's it feel to go down the salt? Was it cool?
It's weird.
Surreal?
It's surreal.
Surreal?
It's like
you're on the moon.
But right now,
okay.
I'm just happy.
But you know, because obviously as the car is going away from you, you can't decipher the speed that he's going. Mm-hmm. So when he finally came back, he had gone on the first run 127 miles an hour.
The fastest I've ever driven before was probably on GSXR 1100 motorbike. I've been on Long Island somewhere on a road with a friend of mine doing something stupid. We got pulled over by a local trooper in a Camaro, and he just got out of the car and he said, I'm going to give you the single biggest break you ever got from law enforcement. I want you to get on your bike, get out of my county, and don't let me see you again.
But Luke was just, you know, cool as you could be. Nothing really fazed him. He was listening, he was learning, and he was going to make this happen, whatever he had to do.
The first pass, I remember being strapped in. I remember having the steward tell us to put the visor down, points to you and tells you it's your turn. There was a shift light, which we were instructed to shift right at the light. And at some point, I remember when we were trying to get a little more speed out of the car, we were allowed to kind of push that light a little bit, keep it in the gear a little bit longer before we grab the next gear.
There's a point in every vehicle called terminal velocity, and you only can go so fast with something. before it actually creates lift or actually doesn't stay on the ground or becomes erratic in some shape, way, or form.
Once we got to going really fast, the car would become really unstable because it was really uneven turf. Like you could feel the wheels all moving around, and the funny thing is, at about 90, I guess, or 100, it started to kind of stop all that movement and hunker down. Like the shape of the car started to wedge, and you could feel the pressure of the air stabilizing the car. So after 110, 120, 130, the car just felt stable as a rock. I mean, we went over 170 easily, because by the time we're past the first trap, you're already at 140, 150 miles an hour, and you're just pushing into the wind with the gear ratios and the motor to try to break into that 160, 165 range. Then you're in the second mile, done with the second mile, you're in the third mile, and you're pushing, and you can see the numbers going up, and they're timing you from those whole mile 2 to mile 3. But once you're out at the exit of mile 3, you're at 175, almost 180 miles an hour.
We were already there at 2.
Yeah, you were there too,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
no problem.
That doesn't mean you went officially 180 miles an hour. You need to get an average over those 2 miles, but we're flying at that point.
You went first, second, and you went from second to fifth.
I screwed up.
And then you went into third.
Yes.
Okay, so that was a lot of lost time even there.
True.
I kind of knew, because of the comparisons from before, the runs before, that if I was at like 176 on the exit, we did it.
Pretty wild, right?
Ran really, really well. Thank you. That's a lot of.
So I kind of knew from there. I was excited. But that's the first run. You got to do another run to back up the record.
They want to make sure it wasn't a fluke. So now you have to go and repeat that, and you have to show that you can do it again.
The initial record was like 158 when we went out, and the Honda team had put it at 159 once we arrived. We went 160, but once you qualify your time, you go into tech, and then they rerun you in the morning. So it's a form of strategy too, because do we go into holding? Is our time good enough to be able to back it up the next day to where we're still going to have a record? Because once you're in holding, you lose your day.
Once we measure the engine at the end of the week, then the record becomes valid.
And we want to hold our record, so we want to measure now.
Okay.
Because hypothetical, you seal it right now, I go have some more fun and I blow it up. I lost my record. That's exactly right.
Good point. 3:10. Close enough? Close enough.
We ran in the afternoon, now we're running in the morning. What's that gonna
Again,
be?
strategy. Hey guys, we did it now, but what does that tuning look like tomorrow with the actual, forecast that's going to happen tomorrow?
And on the second run, something different was with the motor, or something different happened on that run.
Once you start getting up to the top of second gear, you're going to start to feel the car starting to track.
We had a real spike in heat.
To the throttle, all the way full throttle. Hold on to it, keep the car underneath you, and then commit to the
And at some point in the middle of the run, I saw the heat off the chart in the motor. They had always said that the temperature needed to stay somewhere in the middle. And I saw that arm shooting through the top, and the motor is just going, wah! And I remember thinking to myself, this is what you do, you know, you're trying to break the record. This is not the time to get off the gas. And I remember going through and grabbing another gear, and that heat was just pinned at the top, and I'm like, this is so stupid, but I'm also not gonna take my foot off. Good firewall, there's an engine, you know, it's just, what's it gonna go? It's gonna go, and then it's gonna slow down. I'm not gonna flip or anything, and so I was like, at least that's what I told myself. And kept my foot down, and we got through at like the same record rate, and the engine turned out to be okay. I remember Ryan, I told him about the heat, and he said, well, you loosened it up a bit. It's probably going to be all right, something like that.
The final speed was 160.874.
You know, to dream something that you really believe in and spend some money, but most of the time your hard work, energy, and your intellect to try to achieve your dream is a very noble and exciting and satisfying kind of endeavor. I'm always willing to help those who have a dream to do something, and if they dream something really amazing, I never say it can't be done, because without dreams, half the things on the planet wouldn't have been done in the first place. So to dream big, why not? If you're going to dream, might as well dream big. Might as well shoot for the moon, you know.
I didn't want to let Harvey down by any means, Harvey or his family or Luke and all the people involved. To get out there and achieve what we did, it was quite amazing that we were able to pull it off, being that we were competing with people that had been out there many times in multiple years before us.
It is kind of unheard of to come out to Bonneville cold and break a record. Most people show up, have a lot of learning curve to figure out. So between my father's research and preparation and Ryan's preparation and research and execution, not only did the car look amazing and run amazing, but the science behind the mechanisms was there for us to break this record in one shot.
The name of the car was Going to 160, because that was our goal. Our goal was to go and achieve 160 miles an hour. And once we did that, that's when the weight was lifted off our shoulders, and okay, we did what we needed to do here. Even if someone beats us by a mile an hour, we came out here and achieved, their nirvana of this situations.
I'm around enough motorsport to know that I respect the guts it takes to push an envelope, kind of be like a mini astronaut, if you will, to get in a machine that other people prepared and push buttons other people told you to push, and then basically hang on for dear life.
You know, that was my biggest fear, the car staying together in a circumstance of the unknown. And to achieve that unknown and break a world record was amazing.
I can't say enough about how really a great a job both Harvey and Ryan and his team did to make the decisions and keep the focus in an area where they could succeed and just kill it. They really did. The car was strong. Harvey could have broke the record. It was a generous act to have me do it. At the same time, it was just what we were doing. It was like a father-son trip. We were hanging out, we were driving the car, and it was a flip of a coin. And whoever was going to drive it next was going to do it. You know? And I really think it was Team Siegel. I honestly didn't feel like I broke the record. I felt like we broke the record.
It wasn't cheap, but we did get out there and we had a hell of a good time. And we did break the record, and we hold it to this day.